Our society has countless images, ideas, and stereotypes about change agents. People who help an organization transform by improving business process and interpersonal interactions. Whether influencing fashion, business, art, entertainment, science, politics, or law, these change agents have and continue to positively impact today's society on so many levels. And today, we are proud to share the story of these business owners, coaches, innovators, and thought leaders from various industries who are eager to educate, inspire, and motivate you. This is Our Voices on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Our Voices, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Room 8, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model magazine. And this show is focused on highlighting the amazing work of powerful change agents who have a great message to share with the world. And today, I'm beyond thrilled to be speaking with Melissa Dobbins, founder and CEO of Careerdotplays. So as someone who doesn't support bias-ridden resumes, Melissa Dobbins is also not a fan of bios. Resumes and bios are just long enough to feed assumptions without accurately representing the individual. Ms. Dobbins formed Careerdotplays, where candidates can be evaluated on competency, not what is on a piece of paper. So with that amazing bio, without further ado, let's speak with Melissa.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I think that was probably maybe the most unique bio I've ever had come across my desk. So why don't you definitely share with everyone, how you became an entrepreneur and how you formed Careerdotplays?
Absolutely. Well, the story is like with many entrepreneurs. It's when somebody is going through their life and just experiences something that bothers them, that they feel like they have to be part of the solution. And that's exactly what happened to me. So unlike what my bio has stated, I come from the world of product strategy, product management, technology. And it's a fascinating world. It is so much fun to be in. But as a woman in technology and in leadership, I experienced a lot of bias as well. And when I go through that process, when I went through being interviewed for different positions, I was getting very agitated by the types of questions I was asked. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that I am a woman. For example, quite a bit of time on what my work-life balance would be like, where they're trying to figure out, am I going to go home and take care of the kids? The answer to that question, by the way, is yes. If they need me to, I will. And all parents should answer the same way. But the other thing that really started to bother me as I was going through these processes is the questions that weren't being asked to me. So people were so concerned with if I was going to go home to take care of a family member, or was I able to fire people because, that's emotionally difficult. They were not asking me how I was able to run a roadmap or secure funding from the board or manage large teams of people. And these are the things that were absolutely required for the job. Well, the more I shared my frustrations and my story, the more I realized that it's an extremely common one. People being asked questions based on assumptions, people being thrown out of the process because of biases and jumping to conclusions, and not being evaluated for what actually mattered for the job. And finally, I threw my hands up and I said, either I have to put up with this or I have to be part of the solution. And I chose to be part of the solution.
Phenomenal. Okay, so at Career.Place, what are the services that you offer?
So we're a SaaS-based platform solution. And what that means is we provide the tools necessary for employers to fairly evaluate candidates, all without having to download anything or put anything in their internal systems. It's all online. And so we offer a platform from the employer side to go through and create the types of questions, scenarios, interviews that allow them to evaluate candidates based on their credentials, based on what their talents and capabilities are. And then from the applicant side, when they come in, they're anonymous. So they are being evaluated by what the employers are asking, but not what's on a piece of paper, not by their name or how many years of experience they may or may not have, not by where they come from, by answering the types of questions, by providing proof of their skills and capabilities. That way everyone is evaluated the same way.
I love it. Okay. And what would you say has been the feedback so far for some of the clients that you're working with?
So we've had some amazing stories so far, and it gets me really, really excited as we're working with some of our customers and prospects going through the trial phase. For example, we have one company that the director of talent acquisition was very, very passionate about creating jobs for people who are on the autism scale, for example. And his company now has very specific positions that they staff through a special staffing agency. But what he wants is parity. He wants to be able to evaluate any candidate, whether they have a disability or not, based on their capability in the jobs. And what he said to us was this was the first time he'd come across a technology that was going to allow him to achieve that goal.
Very, very
We've
cool.
had people come to us who've actually gone out of their way to call us, applicants, and tell us that this is the first time they felt like they were heard. A vet who was underemployed, who was looking for a management position and never got an opportunity because he didn't have the word director in his resume. He was in the military. An autistic, or rather an Asperger's candidate in technology who couldn't pass the leader interview because he wasn't reacting to the social cues the way that people expected. We've had all sorts of fantastic stories. Someone who did not have a college education, but many, many years of experience and was really good at his job, finally got that interview because he proved he could do it, rather than them looking for that degree on his resume. So a lot of great stories starting to come out of our experience.
Absolutely. And with being such a forward-thinking company and really pushing the future of hiring and hiring practices, what do you think it's going to take to have massive adaptation of this type of technology and the services that, like your company is offering?
That's a great question because we are moving in a different direction. The key to having success, to evaluating candidates fairly, is to know what success looks like first. And that is very difficult when so many companies, when so many people are used to the I know it when I'll see it from a resume.
Gotcha.
So they haven't gone through the exercise of truly understanding what it takes to be successful at a job, in the team, or at the company, and assume they'll know it when they see it. The problem with that is when you have that mentality of I'm going to look on a resume and find the right person, a few things will happen. You'll look for yourself, so you'll tend to find people that have similar backgrounds, experiences, education to what you have, which is very biasing. Or they look for common keys that have been written into wisdom, such as degrees, certain types of education, which may or may not have anything to do with the success on the job. So in order to start really changing the way that we hire so that it becomes fair and inclusive, we have to start at the beginning where we understand the jobs and the roles that we're hiring for, and then know how to evaluate candidates against those criteria.
Absolutely. You are listening to Our Voices on the Voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse, and my guest today is Melissa Dobbins, founder and CEO of Careerdotplays. So with having more diversity and inclusion in the workplace, what, I guess, have been some of the strides or the movement that you've seen and that you're that you like? And what do you think are some things that still need to be worked on from your company perspective, but just also just generally what you're seeing out in the hiring kind of industry and practices?
What I love is all these conversations, like the work that you're doing. What I love is how much of a spotlight and understanding is being put on the concept of diversity and inclusion. And we're seeing it. A lot of Fortune 500 companies will now have a diversity and inclusion or D&I office. We have people who specialize in it. We have conversations, and they're everywhere. They're in every major HR arena now, are these conversations about how important it is to have a diverse hiring practice and an inclusive environment. Now, that is fantastic. We have to start somewhere. We have to start with the conversation. But there's still a long road in front of us. So we know from the data that being a diverse and inclusive company is just excellent for business. It's not just the right thing to do from a humanities perspective. It's the right thing to do from a business perspective. So you end up winning all around. And it makes logical sense. If you have everyone who thinks the same way from the same background, you're all going to fall into the same problem when it occurs. So if you make the wrong decision, no one's going to see it. But when you have a diverse background of different people with different points of view from different experiences, the likelihood that not only are you going to be able to navigate problems goes way up because now people are thinking about them in different ways. But in understanding your customers goes way up because we're all customers as well. So if you don't have a diverse group in your company and you're catering to a diverse group of customers, something's missing. So that recognition is there, and that's fantastic.
Okay.
A lot of where the efforts lie right now are around training and awareness, which is a great first step. Because we can't train away biases. We just can't do it. We're humans, and the biases are built in. And in many cases, they're very necessary. So what triggers biases is the same thing that lets us know that when we have a tiger in front of us, we run, and a kitten in front of us, we play. Right? So we need them. They allow us to make these very fast decisions that were designed to keep us alive. But when we apply them to each other, it's leading us astray. And that's where we need to now understand biases are not something we can just unlearn very quickly. So we can take steps that allow us to navigate that world of bias. For example, anonymity in the hiring process, like what we're working on, allows us to put all our biases aside and focus on what matters. And then over time, as we get that diversity into the organization, then we start training ourselves to understand that value and power comes in so many different ways and formats.
Absolutely.
But that's through experience.
Gotcha. Okay.
Other things that companies can do that you asked that we're not necessarily involved in is also around inclusion. So once you hire the right people, how do you make them feel welcome? And we're taking just the beginning steps in that as well. And I have a great example from my own experiences about what inclusion really means. And it's not having other people who look like you. And I think a lot of people, inclusion is having others who are just like you. That's great, but it's not necessarily inclusion. So the example that I love to give is I have two children. So I've been pregnant twice while I was working, 2 different companies. And the first time I was tolerated. I had to be there. They couldn't fire me. And it was an all-male team in a tech company. And they were very uncomfortable. But this is something they just had to deal with because it was what it was. But I got a lot of interesting looks. People would jump away from me if I made a sound like I was in any pain. And it was just, I felt like I was tolerated in this environment. The second time, also all-male team, tech company, I kind of was expecting the same experience. But this is what I would call inclusive, because that all-male team not only embraced the fact that I was pregnant, they didn't treat me like I had some sort of disease. But when I had to start eating because during meetings, because, when you're pregnant, you have to eat a lot for a lot of people, they started eating with me. When I needed to take breaks and have smaller meetings, my team changed the schedule so that we had smaller meetings, and everyone adopted it for that period of time.
That's awesome.
And one day when I came in, about T-minus a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, I had one of my product managers proudly come into the office, booming voice so everyone could hear, "I'm ready." And I said, "Great. What are you ready for?
Mm-hmm.
He had prepared his car just in case I went into labor.